is Hamp Da Highstepper. Let me hear you say purple. Purple. So just in case you didn't know, this is the second episode of Where is Hamp? Feels good to be home, baby. Got a lot of funny looks from a lot of my alumni brothers about, hey man, you went there in the car. When you going back to your school? So just in case you didn't know, we are here at the birthplace where it all began for me, baby. Right here, 2600 AP 2 Road, some know it as London Avenue, none other than St Augustine High School. I am sitting here right now with the maestro, the man who's filling the shoes of the legend, the man whose moniker I use, Hamp, Mr. Edwin Hampton. I'm sitting there with Mr. Eddie Williams. How you doing today, brother Eddie?
Pretty good, pretty good. How you making out today?
I'm doing well, brother. Thank you for allowing me to come back to my school and interview this wonderful program.
Well, I'm glad to have you. You know, like you said, it's good for you to be back home.
Now, this is a very exclusive interview. I've never seen you interviewed anywhere on any other TV show ever in history, brother. So I feel privileged that you allowed the Where is Hamp crew to come in here and get the exclusive from you, brother.
Well, you know what? I kind of stray away from interviews, but mainly because I like all the focus to be on our band, our kids. They work hard, and I think they deserve the attention that they actually get.
Now, this is probably the longest 2 or 3 sentences I've heard you say, because you're very quiet, brother. You're very reserved. People may think that you're very angry, but you're a very nice, cool dude. Every time I come here, you got nice words for me. You always got something encouraging and say, hey, man, whenever you get ready, come to St. Aug, sit down with us, talk to us. So I'm finally here. So I'm excited. I'm sure the people are excited. It's a lot of questions. We're going to have fun today. We're going to get a lot of informative facts about you and this program and this band. And I think this is going to be a wonderful interview. So y'all get ready. Where's Hamp? Let's go. So we're going to start off, Mr. Williams, right now. We need to know, what is your bandfax? That means, where did you march? When did music inspire you? When did you pick up a horn? We want to know all of the schools that you went to. We want to know every degree that you got. We want to know every aspect and how your journey brought you here to this legendary program. Let's go, sir.
All right. Started off picking up a trumpet. Let's say a recorder. Back in the days, we started off with recorders.
Yeah, the piano recorder.
All right. Picked up a recorder, 5th grade at McDonald 38 Uptown. Then they eventually put a trumpet in my hand. I tried a trumpet. A cousin of mine actually had a trumpet, and I tried it. I picked it up for the first time, and I actually played a song that they was able to recognize. At that point, I figured I had some type of talent, you know. So my dad brought me a trumpet. Got on the horn. 6th grade, I was all right. Then I went on to Woodson Junior High School.
Carter G, Uptown.
Woodson, yeah.
Washington, LaSalle.
The Tigers,
Shakespeare Park. I know.
The Third Ward, you know.
We got a lot of some other Third Warderians in here right now.
Yeah, so they started practice, and I didn't even realize they had started practice at the time. So I went and spoke with the band director, and I asked him how do I go about getting in the program.
And who was the band director then?
Mr. Darryl Brown. Actually, he graduated from St. Augustine High School also. Played clarinet. Mr. Darryl Brown. So I spoke with him about it. He asked me if I knew how to play. I had been playing for a little while. He asked me to just play a tune. The only tune I knew at the time was second line. Thump, thump, thump. Yeah. I played that. He started me out in the band. By the time I made it to my 9th grade year, I was section leader there. You know, St. Aug at the time, I didn't do a whole lot of band chasing. You know, I didn't know a whole lot about St. Aug back then. At the time, if you could remember, they was throwing Popeye doubloons off the float. So
and you get a free 2-piece.
You get a free 2-piece.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
yeah.
So I was chasing Popeye doubloons. I didn't know anything about bands other than the band that I was marching in. You know, but he introduced me to St. Aug for the first time in my 8th grade year. He showed us a video one day, and I'm looking at this program on the field, and I'm asking, are they local? You know, I didn't have a clue of St. Aug. And he was like, yeah, that's my alma mater, high school. High school, really? You know, 9th grade year came, there was this parade that was called Boys of Bohemian in the French quarters. Woodson was lined up in one spot, St. Aug was lined up right next to it. And they played, I'll never forget, they played Someday We'll Be Together. And now it has a much more meaning now because I didn't realize that at the time what was going on.
Right.
But they played that, and I literally went home and begged my parents to find out about St. Aug and send me to St. Aug. It took a little time, you know. My dad, of course, first he found out that there was tuition based. You know, you got to pay tuition. That was the first roadblock I had to go through.
What?
Then he found out that there was an all boys school. That was a second roadblock I had to go through.
What?
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
You know, so after I went through my roadblocks and they got me into the school, in the 84, 85 year was my first year at St Augustine High School. I came here, and another funny story, how I ended up on first my first year here. My band director at Woodson, I asked him about St. Aug. I was like, the musicianship, you know, where you think I would place? He was like, you'll be a solid second trumpet player, you know, your first year there. I could deal with that because I saw the musicianship. First day of practice, summer practice, everybody came with their horn but me. I'm thinking it's a meeting. I didn't think it was an actual practice. I'm thinking it's a meeting. So I called my parents. I said, look, I need my trumpet like now, if you can get it here. So once they started going in the band room, I'm still outside waiting on my horn to come. Well, once I got my horn, went to the band room, and just so happened the only place to sit was on the first trumpet line right next to the baritone. There was an open seat. I sat there, not realizing people were sitting according to first, second, third trumpet.
Right.
So I sat up there, and they started passing out the music, and we started going through the music. About a week into practice, one of the assistant band directors, Mr. Edwin, Edwin Allen.
Mr. Allen.
Yeah, Mr. Allen. He spoke, and he said, well, some of you guys are on first. You know, you're getting comfortable there, but you will not be on first by the time the end of the summer come. I'm assuming he's talking about me because I'm the new kid on the block and everything, you know. So I went and spoke to him after band practice was over, and I was like, no disrespect. That was the only seat. I just sat there,
Right.
you know. And he told me, no, I wasn't talking about you. The guys who I was talking about, they know exactly who I was speaking about. So I landed on first that year. You know, my first year here.
Big dog status.
Yeah. I was very proud of myself. You know, I thought the music was really going to overwhelm me. It did require me to practice a lot more than I was used to actually keep up with the talent that they had here.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, if you want something bad enough, you'll get it done.
That's correct.
Yeah. You know, so I left graduated from St. Aug in 1987. We call that band the Troop.
It's a legendary band.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Went on to LSU to major in computer information technology. I left LSU 2 years later, and I went to University of South Alabama. Went to University of South Alabama, left, and that was in 98. Moved back down here. Started working back with the band in 2001, 2002. At that time, my son was just starting St. Aug. Mm-hmm. He was just starting St. Aug. I had yet finished school. I was still trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. Band was not the direction I was heading in. Although I came around always to help out the 100, you know, I never thought that, okay, this is my future. I'm just thinking I have something to offer.
So how did that happen?
I came around in 2001, 2002. My son got in the band, never played trumpet before in his life. He came to St. Aug thinking he wanted to play basketball. Then when he got here, all of a sudden he decided, I want to be in the band. Uh-huh. All right, so I'll put a trumpet in your hand. We can make this work. I went and spoke with Mr. Hamp about it. Mr. Hamp told me, you know, why not? Well, I told him I was going to put him in the color guard for a year. You know, he can pick up the marching and what have you, and I'll work with him on trumpet for the year.
Right.
And Mr. Hamp's response was, well, you know, don't waste his time. You know, he can actually be learning the music, you know, as we go, and you can still help him out. Just put him on the horn. So we put him on the horn, and I spoke with Mr. Dower Fields at the time, who was here, and I told him, well, you know what? I graduated in '87. If you need me for anything, you know, you can just come and talk to me. Well, at the time, I had been arranging music, but I haven't been passing the music out.
We're going to get into that as well.
Yeah, I was passing, arranging. So he started using me here and there to arrange some tunes for him, you know. So
such as?
I arrange.
Don't be modest. Come on, stunt. This is your moment.
Yeah, it's been a lot. I was trying to think of some tunes I actually arranged at that time, but there was a tune we played on the field for the Battle of the Bands called "Dangerously in Love." Yeah, by Beyonce. I arranged that.
That's you, sir?
Yeah,
congratulations.
That's me.
That was a nice arrangement.
Thank you. We used another song for that particular battle. I can't even think of the name of it. It started off with some drums, but we used that one on the field also. I started arranging quite a few, and that's probably why they escaped me.
Right, I see that.
Yeah. So that's how I actually got on the staff at St. Augustine. I was on the staff all the way up until the storm. Never became an assistant or anything like that. I was just working with the staff as much as I could. After the storm,
Katrina.
Yeah, after Katrina.
Okay.
After Katrina, Mr. Virgil Tiller was hired as a band director. He graciously let me back onto the staff when I still continued to work and arrange here and there. I wasn't the primary arranger, but I did arrange some tunes. After Mr. Tiller left, Jeffrey Herbert was hired on, and he appointed me as an assistant band director. Where at that point, I started not only doing the arranging, but the field shows also. Prior to that, the only field show I had ever done was 2 alumni band field shows.
Right.
Yeah, I did one like in 98, and then of course I did the other one in 2009 when Mr. Hamp passed. We did that show. But then I started arranging the shows and doing the arranging of the music once Jeffrey Herbert got here.
I know I'm really getting old when 2 of the band directors that you named, I went to school with them, so time is passing. So, since you've been here, how many years have you been band director here?
This is my 3rd year.
3rd year. Seems
Yes.
like it's longer than that. Your presence is just around here. When I was in the band, you were here always with a camera.
Yeah, you're right.
Right, you were always here with a camera.
Right.
You used to come before the band and say all type of inspirational words. This is
Right.
our castle. This is our home. We got to protect it from Mr.
Right.
Hampton. I remember all of those moments as a kid.
Oh, really?
So that also says how old you are, sir. But anyway.
All right, yeah. You don't have to bring that up, but go ahead.
Where's the old man? Where's the old man? Where's the old man? Where's the old man? Old man, where are you today?
So, how do you deal with filling the shoes of such a legend, just in the music community? He's a father to so many people, a father figure, a mentor. I remember the first time I saw Mr. Hampton as a kid. He was like Black Moses to me.
Yeah.
We used to go to the Endymion Parade every year. St. Aug used to stop in this spot and never used to play. And I used to get mad. But then the band used to stand at attention. And I was mesmerized by that. I'm like, these are all black males, purple and gold. It's at night, everything flickering. You know, bands stop in front of me all the time, and they just stop and drinking and eating chicken and talking.
Right.
St. Aug was standing at attention, just blanking. That's it. So I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm going here, Mom. So how do you fill the shoes of such a legend? St. Augustine is such a school where the pressure is enormous. If it's sports, they give you a couple of years. If you don't win, you getting out of here. Basketball, football, we all know the names. Bands, I don't like that band director. He's not living up to the. How do you deal with that? How do you do that?
Of course, you always have the pressure anytime you're dealing with such a prestigious organization like the Marching 100.
Right.
Mr. Hampton laid the foundation solid. It's real solid. you can never actually fill the shoes of a Mr. Hampton. You know, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of people want me to shy away from it. I would probably never shy away from it. This would never be my program. This is always Mr. Hampton's program as far as I'm concerned.
Correct.
All I'm doing is trying to use this program to do two things: help save these young men's lives and keep Mr. Hampton's legacy strong and going strong. When people see the Marching 100, I want them to see Mr. Hampton. That's probably why I don't do a lot of interviews.
Right,
You know, I want them to remember Mr. Hampton through this program. So I'm never going to try to fill his shoes, but what I will do is I'm going to use this institution. I'm going to use this program to do exactly what it did for me, which is give me an option, give me chances, give me things that I can do on in life and use the discipline that I learned within the program to actually achieve those things.
Right.
We try to keep that discipline strong, and I like to show the discipline. We had a parade in Mobile, Alabama this past weekend, and this, if you ever marched in a parade in Mobile, they don't stop a lot like they do down here.
Right.
So they marched for a long period of time, and then eventually it came to a stop. I knew the young men was a little fatigued because they was marching consistently, not stopping, not slowing down. But when they stopped, I just left them at attention. Probably left them at attention for almost 10 minutes. And my color guard director, Mr. Sean Steyer, said, I was when I finally blew the whistle for them to get at ease.
Right.
He was like, I was wondering when you was going to blow the whistle, and I was like, these people are not used to seeing us. They're used to seeing us moving on YouTube,
Right.
You know, in Mobile, but they don't know that when our young men stop, they don't move.
Correct.
You know, so I wanted them to see the full Marching 100 and the discipline that our young men actually have. Because much like you said, when other programs stop, they just kind of, do whatever.
Right.
No, our young men know that until they hit at ease whistle, you are to stand at attention. You are not to move. Be very visual about what's going on around you. Visible about what's going on around you. So we like to show that.
Okay, so to piggyback off what you said about discipline, now, and I know when we were here, there was a certain wood apparatus that Mr. Hampton and others at the school used to apply to your backside if the rules that they set inside, if they set in place weren't followed. So how have you adjusted to being a student who was hit with the paddle and corrected with the paddle, but not having the paddle to train this generation or to have that as an option? How have you adjusted to that?
To be honest, it didn't take much of an adjustment for me, mainly because of my son. My son he's the only biological son that I have, and of course, I wasn't taking a board to beat him with as he was growing up when he messed up.
Right.
So I had to figure out ways of disciplining him in other ways. Well, these are the same ways that we do with these young men. We may do push-ups. They may do push-ups, duck walk. We still do duck walk. We still have them run. There's been times whereas we on the practice field, and they're not holding up their end of the bargain in terms of paying attention. Put your instruments down. We just gonna sprint up and down this yard until somebody drop. That type of thing. So it's not, even though the board was a quick fix for things, it's not necessary. I'm not going to sit up there and ever make it believe that St. Augustine High School need the board to succeed. We are still putting out great young men that's actually been very productive in the community, much like yourself.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that.
Much like yourself.
Do what I could do.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've adjusted to these times. And that's with everything. You have to adjust because we got different parents. We have different kids. The whole neighborhood is different. The whole world is different. So you have to adjust. But what you can't do is you can't allow the lack of the board to be an excuse on why you can't educate these young men.
Correct. I also remember about 3 years ago or so having a discussion with you about the middle schools here, the feeder schools.
Yeah.
And Hurricane Katrina kind of killed those for a while, and now the culture is back fostered again. I went to a middle school battle of the bands like last month, and it was jam packed. It was high octane action in there. So how do you How do you assess the playing field now? How do you assess your recruiting and the pool that's coming into St. Augustine, the new Purple Knights? And you guys have 6th, 7th, and 8th grade as well, right?
Well, we've eliminated 6th grade.
Okay, no more 6.
Right, and this year is actually the last year for 7th grade, so we're actually going back
to the old St. Aug, huh?
Right,
okay.
Back to the 8th through 12th. You know, actually, we're real excited. We're real excited about the middle schools and the come up of the middle schools. We have a lot of band directors, young band directors that's really putting their foot forward, man, and educating these young kids on the instruments.
Have you seen your former school? They're not Woodson anymore. The Kip Central City.
Yes, at
Joshua Spate alumni. I'm throwing him out there.
Yes, I've seen him. I've seen his program. Unfortunately, we can no longer recruit from him because that school is actually about to move up to the new Booker T. So, yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, they're reopening that. So that program will be the new Booker T.
Are they gonna be a senior high?
Senior high.
Oh, it's time to go at his neck.
Oh, well, you know
time to go at your neck, brother.
Look, he always calling me up asking for some of our arrangements, some of our better arrangements. And before I was like, yeah, I'll help y'all here and there, but no, not now.
Yeah, I'm not trying to compete the same arrangement.
Yeah, you're not gonna blow the arrangements back at us.
All right. What's your favorite marching band moment ever? Either when you were a student, director, or witnessing it. St. Augustine Marching 100, favorite band moment ever.
There's a lot, but for me, I really would have to say, and to be perfectly honest, I wasn't part of the band at the time. I think the most profound situation or performance that I witnessed really was when I first saw St. Aug for the first time. Mm-hmm. I think I was so mesmerized by how good this program was. I grew up at St. Aug. I grew up uptown, like I said, uptown, and the schools around me that I was more familiar with, which was Corn and Forshey. I knew about John Mack. I knew about 35. Mm-hmm. Even though that's the 7th Ward, but I knew about 35 because the females. Right. It is what it is.
Right.
At the time, but in terms of bands, man, I just thought that St. Aug was phenomenal once I heard St. Aug. What a lot of people don't know is that I was actually heading to 35. Originally, when I was going to leave St. Aug, I was going to Booker T. And then when I got real heavy into band, I thought 35 was about to give me the best of both worlds. They had the women, and they had a good band. So I was heading to 35 after I took the test and everything. But when I saw St. Aug, that pretty much changed it all. So I think that performance, that single performance, had a huge impact in my life and pretty much changed my whole direction.
All right. How has leading this band and being its director changed and impacted your life?
It's changed and impacted my life because in a way that I have to be a lot more cautious. In other words, I was one of them hotheads at one time on your band head, websites or what have you.
Right. You and I have probably fussed and went back and forth. It is what it is.
You can't say anything about St. Aug without me getting up there responding. But it has changed my life. It made me a lot more humble, I think, simply because of who I'm coming behind. When you start talking about Mr. Hampton, and that entire staff that he had, Mr. Hampton, Mr. Bluen, Mr. Edwin, Mr. Edwin Allen, Mr. Caruso, Mr. Winchester, Mr. Ford. We talking about some people, man, that was just phenomenal at their craft.
Right.
And he had all of these guys on his staff. So when you take a self-evaluation of yourself and you compare yourself to these greats, you get humbled real quick because you realize what you are coming behind.
Right. What have your kids taught you?
One thing they taught me is to be a lot more understanding. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times adults do not realize that some of the same problems and stress that we have, these young men have the same thing. They have things that's going on within their life, and if If they go into the band room during a band practice and explode for whatever reason, it may not have anything to do with what's going on in that band room.
Right.
It could be something that's going on at home. It can be a situation with a girlfriend or something like that. It could be anything. And what we have to understand is that these young men have lives also, and there are things that's going to piss them off. And there's things that's going to get them upset. So we have to try to figure out, especially if we know that this is not that young man. He don't normally do this. Then you have to start talking to that young man and find out, okay, tell me what's going on, because I know it's not this program, it's not this band. What's going on in your life that's causing you to act the way you act, you know? So I think that's that, and the fact that they, you know, I listen to them speak all the time, so I pick up a lot of their language. Yeah, I heard two definitions for jousting, and I'm still trying to figure out what it is.
Well, jousting can be used in several different manners.
Yeah, and I try to avoid it because I don't want to use it in the wrong way.
The word joust is actually derived from the Latin word josemity. There are actually 3 meanings for the word joust, 2 verb forms and 1 noun. The first verb means to convince in a manipulating fashion. For example, the car costs $8,000, but watch me joust the salesman down to $6,500. The second meaning of the word joust is also a verb, which means to support or sustain, usually in reference to loyalty. For example, when Marvin got divorced, I jousted him and caused him to move on. And the final meaning of joust is a noun form, which means an incarceration period or a prison stint. For example, Bobby just came home from doing a 5-year joust. And this has been word meanings with Where is Hamp.
It's one of those flexible words. You can use it several different ways.
Oh, okay.